find and follow me, I should say, on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Substack, Threads, and Blue Sky. Catch all of our shows, as always, by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose, Views, short versions, and long versions, also known as the featured interviews. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And then you can make your way, when you make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, that is our digital platform. You guys know that, and it's a great place to be. Check out a couple things that we've got there now in terms of articles and posts, some highlights from heartlandsignal.com. Here's one for you. Georgia Senate candidate and U.S. Representative Mike Collins, a Republican, got caught on a hot mic, Matt, telling a constituent that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files and calls to release them. See, this is what I was kind of saying yesterday, and I've said it before. I'm tired of Republicans saying behind the closed doors or underneath their breath or, you know, whatever, that they know that this is craziness and this is insanity. I'm tired of them saying that. Do something, you know? All right. Another great clip that we've got over at heartlandsignal.com is J.B. Pritzker accepting an award acknowledging his administration's work advancing health, equity, and rights for the LGBTQ community here in Illinois. So that's another good clip you guys want to check out. We got a little bit from J.B. that we're going to play for you after this first break. And then some commentary from a Republican in Kansas, House Speaker and Insurance Commissioner, talking about Medicare and Medicaid in the state of Kansas. So you guys make your way over there and check out what we've got at Heartland Signal on next. Some good clips. And like we always say, there's good things there for you to add to your arsenal of things you can share with the folks that are in your family, in your network, and all the rest. On today's show, we've got a full show, so we will keep it moving. In the 6:30 hour, we'll have Ibrahim with us talking about policy, talking about the work that they do with the with improving how we all are working with foreign policy here in the United States, so and economic policy as well. So we'll have her with us in the 6:30 hour. And then at 7 o'clock, Dan Summins, the managing director of Blessings in a Backpack here in Chicago, will be with us with a special guest, Sonny Morley, talking about a local organization, once again, doing great things for children. And then CTU president, we're going to have a restart from last Monday's kerfuffle with technology. Stacy Davis Gates will be with us in the 7:30 hour, and we'll be talking about the budget that we're trying to navigate around. So 3 guests today. We're going to be busy, so we'll keep it moving. But right now, check this out, progressives.
If you do not live in Chicago, if you are not from here, if you have never lived here for more than 6 months, and you just use blanket statistics to explain what happens here, I don't want to hear anything from you about Chicago, because you don't know about Chicago. You guys sit there tweeting out and, you know, putting out your opinions and comments like they're worth a damn when you don't know anything about this place at all. See, where I come from, and I actually did real research because that's how I got the PhD in my name in the first place. You have to actually go into where you're talking about and spend some time there to be talking about it the way you do. You can't just sit there from an outside perspective looking in and try and have your opinion mean something about it, because it doesn't. And some of you armchair PhDs want to sit there and try to tell me and play me like I'm a fool, talking about some, oh, well, you know, don't you want his help? Don't you want help in your communities? The only thing he's trying to help my community do is reach the grave of prison faster.
Dr. Taylor Andrew talking about Trump stay out. And we're going to have a couple of clips to that end after this first break that we get to. But yesterday I asked the question, do you want Trump to release the National Guard or to be part of this National Guard invasion of Chicago. And I asked the question, and everyone was pretty much consensus, whether you sent a text or you called, and said no. And I said that in a bigger context as it relates to any city in America. And I said this even about red cities, Matt. I said, listen, we don't want that resource being misused and misappropriated. I don't want to see them in a red city, in a red state, just to say, hey, send them there when they have higher crime rates. Let the local officials do their job. If anything, provide them with more resources that are financial, not sending in the National Guard. So that was kind of that part of my opening yesterday, was to talk about that. And I'm still on that. I told you guys I would be this week because it's a current hot issue here in the city of Chicago and in the surrounding areas. But I like what Dr. Drew says there in terms of, if you don't know, then keep your mouth shut. And even if you do know, this is not the way that you want to help a city that has a challenge. You don't send in troops. This is not a militarized zone. And I could get really, really, kind of down and dirty about if you want to send some people and because I asked the question yesterday, Matt, I said, so where? What neighborhoods? Where are they going to be? And so to that end, let's just keep it real. We know why it's happening. And I love what Governor Westmore said yesterday on, I can't remember if it was a CNN or MSNBC, doesn't matter. But he basically was, this is just another way for Trump to get around the Epstein files, create further distraction, tell more lies. And I love the big A lie he told about Trump saying, I sent Governor Moore the money to repair the. No, you didn't. And this is the thing, the distractions, the lies. He just lied, but Governor Moore is a pretty savvy dude, and he navigated it very well. But stay out of Chicago, Donald Trump. Period. We don't need your help by bringing the National Guard to this city. Our crime rates are down. Our murder rates are down. Mayor Johnson was on NPR yesterday, and the guy tried to slide in a question saying something about the rates, and the mayor called him out real quickly. And that's how I want all of our leaders to be. I've said this so many times. Don't wait 2 or 3 days. Be prepared for that interview and let them know right then and there. No, that's not accurate. Stop spewing things that are old date. That's old data, or frankly just wrong data. And if it's old and you haven't updated your information and you ask a question, you deserve, as a journalist, as a reporter, you deserve to get called out. So, all right, we're going to take a break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I did get a response from someone that says, yes, they'd like to see the National Guard here. It would be nice to see kids in Inglewood being able to play outside. Bad move. Bad move. I don't agree with that. It's your opinion. So I respect that someone says that's what they want to see. That's why I asked the question. But that's not the solution. It's a patch. and it would cause further harm. And that's not going to allow kids to be able to play outside in any community to have them. They're going to be more of a distraction and disruption than they would be a safety element. The better move is to allocate the funding so that local law enforcement can have the tools that they need to do a better job. That's the solution. It's not bringing in the National Guard. Because trust me, the next thing you get behind them bringing in the National Guard, the next thing they're going to bring in the National Guard to areas that you're going to go, well, we don't need them there. That's what will happen. And so people, I appreciate your responses, but I'm going to still get after you if I don't agree with you. Don't think that I'm not going to have my reply back. So there you go. All right, Matt, let's hit them with a couple of Choose Views news items this morning. August 26, 2025. U.S. wants a stake in more companies. What does that mean? The U.S. plans to develop a sovereign wealth fund, according to White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett, who told CNBC yesterday, and Intel was just the beginning. Does that sound familiar to anybody? If you understand what the sovereign wealth fund has done in another country in the Middle East, you might want to review that a little bit. All right, the government recently took a 10% stake in struggling chip maker Intel, which represents a first step in federal involvement with private companies, typically a tool of smaller nations like Norway with vast natural resources. Such a fund would provide access to a market holding $13.7 trillion in assets. The government already invests in mortgage giant Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as that was noted. I'm not behind that necessarily, and maybe I want to see more detail. But there you go. It's a no hire, no fire job market. The best move for many employers right now appears to be no move. With pandemic era labor shortages fresh in their minds, many companies are reluctant to let people go, according to ADP chief economist Nella Richardson. That is why initial U.S. jobless claims, a proxy for layoffs, are near historical lows. But while companies aren't doing much firing, they're not doing much hiring either. Firms are, quote, uncertain about the road ahead, creating a no hire, no fire market that leaves would-be job switchers and job seekers, especially in a tough spot. Car loans are now 7-year deals. You may have seen this coming as inflation, tariffs, and interest rates all drive up the cost of vehicles. New car prices have surged to an average of nearly $50,000. In order to make payments on such sums more manageable, 7-year car loans are becoming increasingly common, according to Bloomberg. Per Edmunds.com, about 22% of all car loans now have 7-year terms, and 36% are paid out over 6 years. Unfortunately, for consumers, while longer terms do lower monthly payments, they also add thousands in interest charges and payments over the lifetime of the loan. Dillard's, you may be familiar with Dillard's department store. They are looking to expand their footprint in a different way. One way for department stores to ensure their locations remain attractive to shoppers is to buy the malls in which they're located. As Dillard's did, it co-purchased Texas's Longview Mall for a reported $34 million. And Dillard's isn't the only anchor tenant taking matters into their own hands. Walmart and Home Depot have also recently acquired shopping centers. It's a way to prevent bad actors from scooping up a mall and mall properties and allowing them to fail into disrepair. And I kind of agree with that. It's a way of preserving those properties and making sure that we don't have that kind of blight in certain neighborhoods. Keurig is to buy a coffee shop chain. Keurig Dr. Pepper will acquire Peet's Coffee owner J.D. Peet's for $18 billion if you're a coffee drinker, with plans to spin off the beverage and coffee divisions into separate U.S. companies. The move would effectively unwind the $19 billion deal that joined Keurig Coffee offerings with Dr. Pepper sodas, juices, and energy drinks back in 2018. The coffee business in particular has struggled in the face of rising inflation, increased competition, and tariff-related costs. Keurig Dr. Pepper saw beverage sales surge 11% last quarter on the strength of new soda flavors. And one more consumable item, Krispy Kreme bets on big box stores. Krispy Kreme is going big, and meaning big box stores, that is. The donut maker is looking to get its products into Walmart's, Costco's, and Kroger's. Man, don't put them in Costco, because that'll just get scooped up by all of us progressive liberal Democrats who like donuts, but lie about that we like donuts. But anyhow, it's designed to hope that increased stability will help boost its flagging fortunes in the future. Shares in the company are down 66% over the past year, and competitors such as Dunkin' and Tim Hortons are worried as the prevalence of GLP-1s continue to grow. This year's short-lived McDonald's partnership also proved to be a pricey mistake, costing Krispy Kreme about $30 million in charges. Whew, it's a big number. All right, guys, a couple of Choose Views news items this morning. So, I talked a little bit about this before we went to the break in terms of some clips that I want to play for you guys. And on the heels of what Dr. Drew had to say about stay out of Chicago, Trump and the National Guard, our own governor had a few comments to make in that space as well. So let's go to that one.
I want to speak plainly about the moment that we are in and the actual crisis, not the manufactured one, that we are facing in this city and as a state and as a country. If it sounds to you like I am alarmist, that is because I am ringing an alarm, one that I hope every person listening will heed, both here in Illinois and across the country. Over the weekend, we learned from the media that Donald Trump has been planning for quite a while now to deploy armed military personnel to the streets of Chicago. This is exactly the type of overreach that our country's founders warned against. And it's the reason that they established a federal system with a separation of powers built on checks and balances. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals. This is about the President of the United States and his complicit lackey, Stephen Miller, searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections. Look around you right now. Does this look like an emergency? Look at this. Go talk to the people of Chicago who are enjoying a gorgeous afternoon in this city. Ask the families buying ice cream on the Riverwalk. Go see the students who are at the beach after school. Talk to the workers that I just met taking the water taxi to get here. Find a family who's enjoying today sitting on their front porch and ask if they want their neighborhoods turned into a war zone by a wannabe dictator. Ask if they'd like to pass through a checkpoint with unidentified officers in masks while taking their kids to school. To the members of the press who are assembled here today and listening across the country, I am asking for your courage to tell it like it is. This is not a time to pretend here that there are two sides to this story. This is not a time to fall back into the reflexive crouch that I so often see, where the authoritarian creep by this administration is ignored in favor of some horse race piece on who will be helped politically by the president's actions. Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. If this were happening in any other country, we would have no trouble calling it what it is, a dangerous power grab.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of an extended clip by design. I wanted you guys to hear, and it went on, and there's even more, but that was the crux of it, and largely I wanted you to hear that because of unfiltered JB, Mayor Johnson, unfiltered, Governor Moore, Mayor Brandon Scott, Mayor Wu in Boston, Governor Newsom, and others. Unfiltered. That's the fight we need to have. We're going to keep saying this, people. Some of you may have gotten frustrated because we say it a lot. But you know what? When we got work to do, we got work to do. And if we got to make up some ground that we've all lost, those of you who are left of me, right with me politically, maybe right of me, but still in this fight. And listen, I got friends and family and colleagues that are in the entire spectrum of progressive, liberal, independent thinking people. And we're conservative on some things, and we're more liberal on certain things. And ultimately, we are all under this tent. But I'll be doggone if I'm going to allow us to lean back and take a pause and take a puff and say, nah, and a sip or whatever you do. Nah, let somebody else fight the fight. We don't have that luxury, y'all. We just don't. And Governor Pritzker was full-throated, unapologetic, unfiltered JB about it. And I say that because of some of the cool language that he used in describing both Stephen Miller and Trumpsky. Here's a couple of quotes from our lieutenant governor and our governor. From Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. If Trump wants to take his ego trip on tour, he picked the wrong city. Chicago does not bow down to kings or roll out the red carpet for dictators. As a black woman from the south side of Chicago, I can assure you, Donald Trump, your political circus isn't welcome here. From J.B. Pritzker, things people are begging for in Chicago: cheaper groceries, no Medicaid and SNAP cuts, release the Epstein files. Things people are not begging for: an authoritarian power grab of major cities. He goes on to talk about where the black women that you, and I'm sorry, the Lieutenant Governor talks about this, the black women that you say are running around begging Donald Trump to come to the city of Chicago. No, that's not happening. That's not happening in any shape, form, or fashion. And I got a nice reminder from our good friend Rick in Florida. He said, let me make sure I read this right before we go to break. If you want the National Guard, you must be a, quote, big government nanny state lover. That's a good quote, Rick. We appreciate that from you. We're going to take a quick break, you guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. When Serena Williams won her title at the Tennis Grand Slam tournament, we know she gets the same prize money as her male counterpart. However, prior to 1973, that wasn't always the case. When Billie Jean King captured her first Wimbledon title in 1966, she was surprised to find out that the winner of the men's tournament received £2,000, while she only received £750. After being unable to find any tournaments for women, King and 8 other women formed their own tournament, the Virginia Slims Invitational, where each woman was paid $1 before posing for the famous picture of them each holding up their dollar, with the caption, Contract Pros. While the move was bold, the pay discrepancies continued. King threatened to boycott the 1973 U.S. Open unless the women were paid the same as the men. Thanks to a grant from Band Deodorant, both the men and women's singles would take home $25,000. Despite the progress at the U.S. Open, it wouldn't be until 1984 that the Australian Open would execute equal pay, followed by the French Open in 2006, and finally Wimbledon in 2007.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high in the low 70s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, partly cloudy skies develop, a low near 53. Wednesday, increasing cloud cover, high of 76 degrees. Thursday, chance for showers and storms, a high of 75. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 55.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. So, yeah, I had to play that clip. We've got another one that we'll get to a little bit later in the show, hopefully. But with our guests, we got to keep things moving along. You guys know I've said this a number of times, and I'll say it again as part of how fortunate we are to have some really smart people that are part of our show in terms of our guests and people that we have a chance to talk with. And with us this morning is a former senior advisor at the White House National Economic Council and the Secretary of State's Policy Planning Staff, now is a fellow at Columbia's Center on Global Energy Policy, and that would be none other than Ibrahim, who was with us this morning to talk a little bit about economic policy, to talk a little bit about cost of living concerns. Good morning, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. How you been doing? You been doing okay?
Yeah, we're hanging in.
Tying that knot another time to keep on holding on?
That's exactly right.
Well, thanks for being with us this morning. I appreciate you taking out a little bit of time that we can chat. And a couple, initial questions right out of the gate. Help our audience learn a little bit real quickly about who you are, a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into a couple of quick questions that I want to ask. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, wonderful. Happy to.
Go for it.
You covered sort of the main points during the Biden administration. I was at the National Economic Council at the White House and also spent some time at the Science and Tech Policy Office working on things like AI and crypto, and ended my time with the administration at the State Department, where I oversaw the econ and tech portfolio for the Secretary's policy planning staff, and across the board, really focused on, the big picture economic policy, but also what it meant for regular working families, for individual households here in the United States, but also for people around the world. And, really thinking about how we look to build and structure an economy that works for all people, not just for a segment at the top. Since then, it has been both deeply discouraging in many ways to watch a lot of that work undone, but at the same time, many of the challenges remain. And so, how do we keep looking to the future despite all of the current chaos, which we'll get into, but this current chaos and how it is upending the lives of many working people?
Well, and you've got such a handle on this because you were right there. I mean, like literally hands on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, as we were developing some great policy that was, the goal was to benefit as many people in the country as possible, to not take away from any of the largesse or the success of the uber wealthy and successful businesses. That's never been the objective, to take away from. It's to actually enhance by making sure that from the bottom up, our economy works for more people. And obviously that's now being ripped to shreds. And we'll get to that in a second with the T word. And I don't mean Trump, but tariffs. But you were part of a conversation and a policy design that said, listen, we can build this thing from the ground up again if we're mindful that we aren't trying to take away from those at the top, but find a kind of a place in the middle where everybody's benefiting. I mean, the phrase that we've all used, a rising tide lifts all ships, is not overstated. We actually need to state that more, and that's what you were a part of. Talk a little bit about that from a planning standpoint and what tools you use to say, here's how we can build that economy for so many more people.
Right. The expression of a rising tide lifts all boats. One of the questions that you should then ask is, what do you do with boats that are anchored? And that, to me, felt like a major point of focus for us during the Biden administration, particularly in the sense of how do we make sure that we have learned and internalized and then apply lessons learned from what we didn't get right with how we dealt with the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. So, for example, Black Americans went from being majority homeowners to majority renters on the other side of the crisis because so many had lost their homes as a result of the financial crisis at the time. This go around, we spent a lot of time, devoted a lot of resources, energy, and attention to keeping people in their homes, whether it was through the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which I worked on myself, or the efforts that we pursued around foreclosures and minimizing, preventing foreclosures all around. The real I would say fulcrum of our response was the American Rescue Plan, right, which is the largest expansion of the social safety net in 50 years. It included money for child care stabilization. It included money for the housing assistance I mentioned. You had the stimulus checks in there. You had expanded unemployment. You had funding for health care, so people were able to get health care free of cost, right, as it related to anything COVID. And what we saw is you give people what they need, the economic outcomes are better. And so overall, the United States had the best recovery of any of our developed peer nations. And that is because we said, how do we make sure that regular people are supported in this period? After the initial response to the crisis, then came the bigger picture rebuilding, and you had the infrastructure bill, you had the Inflation Reduction Act, which was all the climate investments, and the money towards being able to negotiate prescription drug prices so people are not choosing between having to pay for rent or groceries or insulin. You had the CHIPS Act, which was the big investment in semiconductors and semiconductor manufacturing here in the United States. Altogether, it was part of a larger vision for how you rebuild an economy in very structural and systemic ways. Did we get it all right? Definitely not, right? There are many things that if I could go back, I wish we would have done differently. Namely, my biggest regret is that we did not do robust housing investments, and I think that we are paying the price for that now. But was there a driving view of how you, to your earlier point, build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out? Yes, certainly. What we are seeing now is not that, right? It's an economy by the top for the top.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. You so many things that you said, just my brain went wow. And so what you're self-critical in saying that you wish you had done more in terms of a bigger housing plan, and we're seeing more and more of how housing has been a big probably the issue that is one of the biggest but not talked about as much. But I don't see right now, and I could say yes, if you're being self-critical about that, then I'll agree with you, because you were, again, 10-2 on at the steering wheel of this. But what I don't see right now is anything that's any better from this current administration as it relates to the area that you said that you could have done better on, or you could have advised differently or better on. I don't see anything that's coming out of this current administration even close to what the Biden administration and what you guys had put together. So help us understand. I mean, what would have been better in that space, and what would have been better then? Because currently the Trump administration is terrible. They haven't even talked about this.
Right. There was in the Republican tax bill that they just signed into law, there were some provisions in there specific to the low-income housing tax credit, which is the program that is responsible for most affordable housing production and preservation in the U.S. And these are not transformative to the overall housing crisis by any means, but it is worthwhile change. And that is something that we could have done as well. So, I do want to acknowledge good policy where it exists. That being said, it is one good policy in a sea of awful. And so much of what this president and this administration have pursued and designed in terms of policy are, to the extent that we can treat it as something with a larger overall strategy, is really driving chaos and uncertainty. That means higher prices for people. It means higher prices for people at the grocery store. It means, higher prices when they're doing the back to school shopping. It means higher prices for essential things like housing. When you think about the main inputs, if you will, of housing, you think about construction materials. Well, all of the tariffs that the president has pushed for, these will drive up the cost of necessary building materials. You have the rampant, at turns, very often illegal immigration enforcement that has defined this presidency and this administration. Well, all of that is making labor costs more expensive. You have people who are quite literally not showing up to job sites, to construction sites, because they are worried. And then you have the issue which is driving a lot of the news today, which is interest rates, and the ways in which interest rates also will keep the cost of new housing construction and housing development higher than we would like. But the reason that rates remain high is, as the Federal Reserve weighs potential cuts, the thing that they have to consider is potential uncertainty down the road. And again, when you have a president, an administration that's doing policy by fiat, then it's very hard to say, okay, based on the data that we have and what our expectations are moving forward, then, we feel good about cutting these rates or making this decision, when there are so many unknowns, more than you would in any other setting, because of the particular group of people that you have at the helm, right? Who you currently have with their hands at 10 and 2.
Yeah, and that's I'm so glad you did a couple things here. One, acknowledge that there is something that can be considered a micro piece of goodness, but in the sea of all the other craziness, you can't even see it because of the other awful parts of this bill. But I also like the fact that you are unafraid to speak to the fact that this inconsistency, this lack of clarity, that really no plan. The plan is to not have a plan, it seems. The plan is chaos, because chaos keeps friction alive, and that friction allows people to be uncertain, and companies can't build. Build is not even they can't plan, and I've talked about this.
They can't plan. They can't invest.
No, and whatever investments that they would normally use is stunted because they're worried that, we make this investment and suddenly we see an increase in our what part of the tariffs we're responsible for. It's going to eat that profit up that we would have made from the investment, and so. Not being able to plan is not a way for businesses to be able to try to run themselves. Let me ask you, you talked about the Fed for a second. I want to ask you a question because it's current news. What are your observations about this firing of Lisa Cook at the Fed? What do you see there, and the reasoning or the thought behind it, if there was any thought? I've got my assumptions, but let us all hear what you have to say.
No, sure. Well, I would start by just clarifying that this is an attempted firing, right? I mean, based on everything that we know, based on all precedent this is an unprecedented move. In the Fed's, 100-plus year history, something like this has never really been attempted. There was a recent decision by the Supreme Court that would suggest that this move is highly illegal. So this is the president trying to do something, and what I don't want to do is concede preemptively that he does have the authority to do so, because many would argue that he does not.
Yeah, and I was asked this question as well, does he have the authority to do so? And my first response was, not that I know of, but I also wonder if there's this is an attempt to do an end around, if you will, in terms of going after Jerome Powell. And again, I'm being admittedly speculative and just trying to figure a way through this. But that was the other thing that came to me, is that it's a way to sort of create some threat toward him. And again, I don't want to draw you down my speculation lane, but it seems that may also be part of this.
Yeah. I mean, is there a larger attempt to rig the votes at the Fed so that the president can get the rate cuts that he and his administration so desperately want? Yeah, absolutely. He has pushed for so long. He calls him too little, too late. Powell, I think, is the latest nickname.
Yeah.
So, from his perspective, the goal, at least for me as an outside observer, at the end of the day, it really is just about how do you get the right constellation of people to cut rates. But more importantly, how do you get the right constellation of people who will effectively act as an extension of the White House and of the president's whims, as opposed to an independent central bank authority, which is what it's supposed to be. And, Governor Lisa Cook is a renowned economist. She's an expert. She has done, work around the world, and so much of her research was around emerging markets in Africa, but even here in the United States, right? One of her defining papers was about the relationship between effectively like racial violence here in the United States and innovation. And basically, in places where you saw more racial violence, you saw a decline in the number of patents filed.
Yep.
And where you incite that kind of behavior, where you incite that violence and that uncertainty, you really undermine your own economic potential. And to me, there's a lesson in that as we're watching the policies of this administration.
Yeah.
The way that go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the way that this president and his advisors have gone about leading this country, if you can call it that, is one in which if you are the best and the brightest around the world, is the United States still the place that you want to be, that you want to come and study and invest and do business? If you are a foreign investor, does this feel like the safest place to put your money in the way that it has been historically for the last 50, 60, 70 years? There's a reason that the U.S. dollar is the world's global reserve currency. People feel good and safe about doing business in the dollar, and it is involved in most transactions around the world. There's a reason that people buy our debt, right? U.S. Treasuries. It is technically a security, but people treat it like as a true safe haven asset, that as if there is no uncertainty around it because there hasn't been. So there's so many things that maybe you could argue we have taken for granted about the United States and what makes our economy as vibrant and as strong as it has been. A lot of that is changing, and there's very little that we can now take for granted or assume will remain to be true. And to an earlier point you made, markets hate uncertainty, and if there's a defining characteristic of this period, it's uncertainty. It's
uncertainty, yeah. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to one of those really smart, plugged-in, experienced folks, Ibrahim, with us this morning, and your background as a senior advisor on economic policy, economic counsel, and part of the State Department's policy planning staff, it probably taught you a lot. You probably saw a lot, and clearly you brought a lot to the table. So here's kind of I've got a question that maybe is your opinion, and then the other one is probably a little bit more data-based. But right now, if you were to look at the Trump administration, the Trump regime, as I'm calling it, and say, what's the number one thing wrong with what they're doing as it relates to economic policy, what would that be? If you had to just say this is the thing, what would that be, AF?
Oh, man.
Sorry.
One thing.
At the top of the heap.
Listen, at the top of it, it's that they don't care about working people. Right? It's the lack of thought. a lack of care for anyone who's not able to. It would seem for anyone who's not able to sign a check to be a donor, and for everyone at home who is trying to navigate this very tumultuous economic period. I cannot imagine that you are watching this president, this administration, and you feel like these people have my best interest in mind. They have my family's best interest in mind. And if you do, I would love to talk to you because I have a lot of questions.
Wow. That is probably one of the most bring it on kind of answers to a very complicated question, but lack of care, lack of really any sort of concern for folks that can't be in that donor class is a great answer. And it ties back to a part of what you said earlier around the inconsistency. Right now, so many people were promised or believed that they were going to get a president that was going to be their guy. And it's turned out that he's not. And we knew that along the way. And so many people bought into it. And here we are. So I move to the next question that I want to ask you. Is there a fix? And if there is a fix, what do you think it is? Are we at a point or in a situation where, and I'm saying this from the eyes of an economist, are we just going to have to ride this out? And do we have the guardrails to ride this out until the next election? Midterms included.
Midterms included. So here's the thing, Richard. The guardrails exist. It's not about whether or not they're there. It's about whether or not we'll enforce them, whether or not they'll hold. That, to me, is the biggest question. And, what we're seeing now with the Federal Reserve and the president's illegal attempts to remove Governor Cook, that will be a major test. And we'll see how the markets respond. As when I last checked this morning, it seems that the dollar is down, and there's been quite a sell-off of U.S. Treasuries, and all of that is not great. I don't know that there is one silver bullet fix. What I do know is that Congress has a major role to play here, and by all accounts has been out to lunch. And right now on recess, but they got the Republican tax bill done. They, cut rates for the wealthiest people in this country at the expense of those of hard workers at the bottom, and slash the social safety net in the process. So, the historic cuts to SNAP, to food assistance, the massive cuts to Medicaid. You're kicking millions of people off of health insurance so that you can give a tax cut to the richest people, not only in the country, but effectively in the world, right? This is the richest country on earth, and we've decided the trade-off we're going to pursue is those who need it most will get least, and those who have more money than they know what to do with, let's just give them a bit more. I really think it comes back to the Congress doing its job. Congress has the main authority around tariffs and around trade. That is Congress's responsibility. But over and over again, we see Congress ceding its authority to the executive, to this president. And, from Republicans' perspective, it works for them now because it's their person at the helm. But the thing about norms and thing about institutions, when you break them, they're just broken. It's incredibly difficult to rebuild trust, to rebuild these institutions, unless you assume that this president or this party will be in charge forever. There will be a time when the shoe is on the other foot, and I don't know that they have contemplated what that means.
Yeah, and that I think that I would say based on their actions, so that I don't have to try to get into somebody's mind, that they don't care right now because they're going to ride this until it's over, and it's going to be a grab of resources, money included, and it's going to be a grab of as much power, and the breaking gives them some purview know that it's going to take a while to reassemble. So let's break as much as we can, grab as much as we can. And if we're out in the desert for a while, we'll be out in the desert with our largesse that we took along the way. I mean, that's an oversimplification of it. It doesn't have all the fancy words, but I do think that's...
No, I think it's exactly it. I think that's true both of, government, of leadership, but I also think it's true in the private sector as well, right? The way that we see investment going, whether it's in AI, we see all this activity around crypto, which, again, this administration is helping inflate the value of a lot of these assets. But everything feels like one big exit strategy. Everyone is getting as much as they can while they can, and then when the house of cards comes falling down, they'll be fine.
Yep, they'll have their shelters. Hey,
exactly.
Listen, I knew this was going to happen because you're really smart and you have a lot to say in this space. So I'm going to ask you right out of the gate because we got to hit a break. Would you come back and be on the show again in a few weeks when we can talk a little bit more about what we've discussed today and some other areas? Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So let everybody know how they can find you real quick as we wrap up, and then we'll get you back on and talk some more. How can folks find you?
I am on Twitter at AYYUHHH.
Cool. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's been a pleasure. I'm sitting here going my notes. There's just so much to talk to you about. But appreciate you being with us. And I know our listeners are like, oh, man, I didn't think about that. So we'll get you back on the show. We'll have another great conversation and be able to kind of pick your brain some more in this space where so many people are looking for answers, looking for thoughts and perspectives. And we appreciate you taking the time this morning to be on Choose Views.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Richard.
All right. Have a great day today, and we'll talk soon.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
When she just opened up a whole nother list of questions that popped into my brain. But we do have to take a break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-200-1966. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-200-1966 or biglou.com.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Shares sank today in Europe and Asia after President Trump announced he was firing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. AP correspondent Ben Thomas has more on the president's decision.
Escalating his effort to exert control of the independent-minded Federal Reserve, President Trump says he's removing Fed Governor Lisa Cook effective immediately. He cites allegations that she committed mortgage fraud. Those come from Bill Pulte, a Trump appointee to the agency that regulates mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And legal scholars suggest they're likely a pretext for the president to open up another seat on the 7-member board so he can appoint a loyalist to push for lower interest rates. On Friday, Fed Chair Jerome Powell signaled a cut could be coming.
The shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance.
But Trump reacted.
You should have cut him a year ago. He's too late.
Last week, Cook said she would not resign despite Trump's call for her to do so. Ben Thomas, Washington.
And Trump has signed an executive order threatening to withhold or take away federal funding from local and state governments that offer cashless bail, arguing that it's a threat to public safety. And in Israel, protesters have torched tires and blocked highways to demand a ceasefire to free hostages in Gaza, as Israeli leaders press ahead with plans for an offensive which they argue is needed to crush Hamas. And Australia's Prime Minister says his country is cutting off diplomatic relations with Iran. Shortly before the announcement, the government told Iran's ambassador to Australia that he would be expelled. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has accused Iran of organizing 2 anti-Semitic attacks in Australia. Iran's government has denied the allegations. In other news, a towering dust storm rolled through the Phoenix area yesterday. The storm, known as a haboob, blinded drivers, grounded flights, and knocked out power to thousands of people. This is AP News. Cadillac has played it safe with its first Formula One lineup, bypassing an American driver for series veterans Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. And a recognizable player in women's basketball is getting her own shoe.
There's no higher expectation than what I have of myself.
Caitlin Clark is Nike's newest signature athlete, expanding the athletic wear company's partnership with the WNBA star. Nike has revealed a new logo of interlocking C's to represent the Indiana Fever player. Clark's first signature shoe and apparel collection will debut next year. Her logo collection will launch on October 1st. A t-shirt in the Fever's colors of yellow and navy blue will come out a month earlier. Clark has had a huge impact in women's basketball ratings and attendance over the last few years, including setting the NCAA all-time scoring record at Iowa. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
More information at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today. We'll see high in the low 70s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, partly cloudy skies develop, a low near 53. Wednesday, increasing cloud cover, high of 76 degrees. Thursday, chance for showers and storms, a high of 75. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 55.
WCPT replay.
We are blessed to have one of the most prolific writers and storytellers and authors in the country right now, and that's Michelle Duster.
When people try to say, well, you know, they want to make America great again, I mean, it's code language for making it white again. But this country has never been a white country. People want to act like there were no indigenous people here. They were in the majority when, you know, the Europeans discovered this country. And then after millions of Africans were imported by force, you know, to come to this country. In many places in the South, people of European descent were in the extreme minority, you know, so then for them to not say out loud they want an all-white country, it's like it never has been. They're pining for something that never existed.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Ready to step up your style? Do it in a Porsche. Own the road with power and performance. And find yours at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Our tariff-free vehicles are available for immediate delivery, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $949 a month for 39 months. Don't miss out on the $7,500 EV tax credit and grab your electric Porsche today at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $4,929 to its sign excludes tax, title, license, and NAC fee. No security deposit required. Expires 9/2/25.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Welcome back, guys, to Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number. It was great having Ibrahim on earlier, and I know you guys had sent me some texts that wanted me to ask her some other questions. That's why we'll have her back on in the future, and we'll get into some other things a little bit more depth, and with a little bit more depth. So, listen, you've heard me say this numbers of times on the show and different broadcasts about the importance of local organizations and local effort. And, you know, right here in Chicago, we have a group that's part of a national footprint that's making a difference in everyday lives of students, of our kids. You've had us. We've had this gentleman on before, and we've always been, excited to have the folks from Blessings in a Backpack on with us this morning. Of course, is Managing Director Dan Summins of Blessings in a Backpack. Good morning, Dan, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. I take it things have been going well. You guys have been busy as always. It's the school year. Boom. We turn around and here we are. I look out the door and I see all ages. I was driving down the street yesterday and I saw 3 different sets of probably kindergartners with the little handsets on, walking with a teacher or someone as they were guiding them down the street, and they're all walking in unison. And so you see that, and then you see the kids who are probably seniors that have all that attitude and moxie about getting out of school in one more year. So, and everything in between. So school is back in session here in the Chicago metropolitan area, and Blessings in a Backpack doesn't take a day off. You guys keep it rolling every day to make sure that our youth are fed for the weekend. So once again, kudos to you as one of the voices locally, but part of a national footprint to make sure that food insecurity is becoming lesser and lesser. So talk to us about how you've been, what you've been working on, and then we obviously got a great guest that's going to be joining us momentarily.
Well, Richard, you're absolutely correct. It's back to school season. The kids are back in school. They've been back in some of our suburban districts for a week and a half now. Chicago, they've been back a week, and it seems awfully early. But they're back, and we're already feeding kids at, we're at 92 different locations. We're going to feed about 6,200 kids. So our ability to respond to this situation's increased. I want to thank our donors and thank you for helping us raise awareness of the problem of weekend hunger. But the kids are back and they're ready, but they've got the same conundrum, right? The same issue is they're well taken care of it by our schools. They're fed breakfast and lunch. But what happens when they go home on Friday? A lot of the kids are excited. They're looking forward to their weekends, and some of the kids are nervous because they're not quite sure what they're going to go home to. And if you're a Blessings in a Backpack kid, you're going to get fed. We're going to send you home with food, so you'll have enough food over the weekend really to be refueled and refreshed when you get back on Monday and ready to learn.
Yeah, I was talking with a good friend of mine, author and historian. She's a great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells, Michelle Duster, and she's been on the show a few times. And we were talking about the importance of making sure that everybody is touched and everybody's reached, and including our children when it comes to they are our future, and we can use all kinds of words to describe that, but if we can eliminate one of the stress points for them, which is weekend food insecurity, then I think we've done a great job. So thank you and the organization for the work that you put in. We have a guest with us this morning, and I'm excited to chat with a first-year principal at Diamond Lake School, and that would be Sunny Morley. Good morning, Sunny, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. I am here ready to share all of my love for Blessings in a Backpack.
So, all right, we'll dive into the deep end of the pool, and Dan will throw us a life preserver if we start to drown. But let me give you the mic, Sunny, and tell us a little bit about your background and your ascent to being first year principal at Diamond Lake School.
So I've been in education for about 20 years. I have just started my second year as principal at Diamond Lake. So I finished my first year with a great partnership with some community members and in a new role. It was very exciting. I've had some years of experience being an assistant principal, and I've taught second grade and I've taught fourth grade. And I'm just really excited to start another year here at Diamond Lake.
Well, one of the things that Dan shared with us earlier this year is the surprising number of children that are in communities that you may not necessarily. I mean, we're all susceptible to making assumptions. Let's first Let me introduce that. And one of the assumptions is that if children are in a non-city or urban school, that they don't have a concern. There's no concerns about food insecurity. And Dan set the record straight about that in terms of the number of, there isn't a zip code in the United States of America that doesn't experience that. And frankly, as much as, like I've said so many times, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. I was shocked by that, but shocked in a way that we didn't know it, not that it exists. And you're at a school that isn't, a quote unquote city of Chicago school or metropolitan school, as it were. But it is certainly something that you recognize as part of the community that you serve.
Yeah, you never really know what happens until you know, and you're a part of their community about what's happening to kids after they leave school. You know what happens here because we are in a more controlled environment. But sometimes you never know what that looks like for kids after 2:35 at our school.
And how are you? How do you navigate that? I know the program is built to keep a certain amount of privacy, if you will, to make sure that the children don't feel, as Dan has put it, any sort of embarrassment because they are part of a program. But what are some of the things that you do to keep the program strong and keep the people that are your volunteers excited about working in the program?
So the smiling faces on Friday that come down to our office. So we distribute from our office. Kids bring their backpack. We put stuff inside. We zip it back up, and they go put it back in their locker. Our teachers, sometimes, we couldn't do this without our teachers. Our teachers are so good at keeping those, keeping it discreet and making sure kids feel safe and loved and know that they care about them. So sometimes if our teachers can sense, even if there's a little hesitation about coming down to the office, our teachers will come down to the office, get those supplies, and put them in their backpacks for them. So we're really lucky. We have pre-K to second grade students, so they're a little more open. As you get older, you become a little more jaded, and you have a lot more opinions. So our kids are just excited to come down and know that people care about them and are worried about them and love them. So that's part of what we do.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's been great to have Dan on the show and have other folks on that are part of the program, whether they be a principal like yourself, some of the volunteers, and some of the corporate support that's there. And as we look at the school year, the school season, what are some of the bright spots that you're seeing at your school, and how is Blessings in a Backpack helping you in keeping that vision strong and alive for your school?
So, as always, our bright spots are our smiling faces of 265 kids that walk in the door every day. Our goal is attendance. We want our kids to be here. We want our kids to love being here. We want them to know that we love them and care about them. Blessings has helped us so much with that mission to make sure our kids feel well cared for. We know there are difficult times. Everybody has them, and we are here to help you. So our partnership with Dan has been really helpful for that. Because without them, I will tell you, it's really hard on teachers before we had a partnership with Blessings, it's really hard for teachers because teachers care so much, and teachers are some of the most passionate people you'll ever meet. And they are always willing to do the extra mile, and teachers were, they were buying things out of their own bringing things from their own pantries and helping kids, and this has just been such a great blessing for everybody to make sure kids feel supported, it's nutritious, it's there, and it's ready for kids.
We are always excited when we have Blessings on because of the work that you do, and I'm equally excited this morning. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM in Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. And we are talking with Dan Summins, the managing director of Blessings in a Backpack here in Chicago, and principal at Diamond Lake High School, Sonny Morley. So my next question is this, and this is kind of, I'll make this a fun question for you, Sonny. Are you one of those principals that hangs out in the hallway and is giving high fives and fist pumps to your children when they come into the school, or you dancing down the hallway singing songs with them? Which one is what's your greeting for the kids when they hit the door in the mornings?
Well, if it's a Monday morning, we have music playing. So yesterday we had the soundtrack to K-pop Demon Hunters. If you don't know about it, I suggest you watch it. It is all the rage in the small children. And there was an entire dance conga line walking right down the class. And it was so fun. I'm always out there just smiling, laughing, fist bumping, welcoming kids, making sure they know that everybody here is there to help them, be there for them. Fist bumping, high fiving, hugs. We got kindergartners. We're hugging all the time.
So as you are going, as we've gotten into the school year, and we know the importance of blessings here in the Chicago metropolitan area, and then globally in terms of the rest of the United States, what are some of the things that, as you get to the big times of the year, the holiday season, that you try to keep top of mind? As it relates to making sure that the children in your school are safe and that they've got all the tools that they need to make it through the holidays.
You know, we are really a fortunate school. So we have a member of our staff who has started a community food pantry out of our school, even, and with the help of Dan and his community outreach and partnerships. We got a really good start on our food pantry this last year, and now we're a part of the Illinois Food Bank to help our community. So with blessings, we make sure kids have snacks over the weekends and food for the weekends, and making sure we get them food for a break. You know, we got a couple of 4-day weekends coming up, 3-day weekends coming up. Make sure they are stuffed full, and then we are, we're building those relationships with our community so that we can really reach out and say, do you need help? We're here to help you. How can we help make sure that everybody in your family, because our second grader is not the only one in your house. How can we make sure that your family is well taken care of? And how can we be more of a community school? So those are things we're thinking about all the time here.
That's great. So Dan, obviously you've been extremely busy with getting things off to a good start for the school year. What are some of the things that you guys, more in the confines of blessings, are just getting yourself ramped up for now that we're back in school, and all of our kiddos, whether they be the kindergartners or the seniors, are dealing with? What is kind of, when you're sitting in those meetings and you guys are planning and talking about the next 4 months until the end of this year, what's that looking like right now?
Sure. So, excuse me. The first thing, I do want to give a shout out to Aldridge Electric in Libertyville. They're the corporate sponsors. They've adopted and love those kids at Diamond Lake. And without their corporate support, none of that would have happened for Sonny and those kids. So I want to say thank you to Aldridge Electric. Right now, this is a great fundraising time, and I just want to go on the record and thank you publicly. Everyone should know we do a great golf and racket classes with golf, tennis, and pickleball, September 29th at Exmoor Country Club in Highland Park. And Richard has generously agreed to be our celebrity MC. And Richard, I want to thank you. That's going to add a whole luster to the event that we haven't had in the past. So we really do appreciate you coming out, spending your time with us. And we're going to raise enough money to give. We're going to raise. We'd love to raise $100,000 that we give directly back to some of our 92 programs around the Chicago area. So they all deserve that support. The first $100,000 goes directly back to Feed Kids, and that is really, really what we're focused on. We want to make sure that our volunteers at those local schools, people just like Sunny and her teachers, have the financial resources and wherewithal to make our mission come to life.
And thank you, Dan. I'm looking forward to being a part of that. It's golf, so I'll be excited to be a part of a golf event, and certainly tennis and pickleball for those who are going to take that on. And it's an honor to be the MC for the event. But you've got another big event that's going to come up, or another event that's going to be taking place before the end of the year. Chat about that for a little bit.
Sure. Well, we host the world's greatest 5K. It's a do-it-yourself 5K. We refer to it as a DIY 5K. And it's great because you don't have to train for it. You don't have to wake up on Saturday morning and go to some park and run it. You do it at your own pace, at your own place. You can get a team together and raise money for a specific school. So if you like what Sonny said today, they're in the Mundelein community. If you want to do something for those kids, Go to chicago.blessingthebackpack.org, upcoming events, create a team. All that money stays right in your community and feeds your kids. So it is a do-it-yourself 5K, and, we allow you to select your school. So you'll pick a school, and it's got to be an existing Blessings program, but we're going to be able to help fund those kids to make sure they have the resources they need to get the food they need on weekends.
So any school that's in the program, whether they be a city in the suburbs or a school in the suburbs or a school in the city, if it's part of the program, then that effort is actually that person's DIY efforts actually go to a school that they can select, if I understand that correctly?
Absolutely. So it's hyper local. You're going to feed kids in your neighborhood. Maybe your children are going to school with kids that you don't know are part of the Blessings program. To Sonny's point, we try to really be thoughtful about the kids' anonymity. And so your child might be sitting next to a youngster that's getting Blessings food and you just don't know it. And that's on purpose. We're really proud of the fact that we really are trying to be thoughtful about not just the kids' physical needs, but also their emotional needs. They need to feel secure. They need to feel confident. They don't need to be embarrassed because, they're getting free food. This is just a point in their life. It's not their trajectory. It's just where they are today. And we know it's helped with Blessings and other groups, great teachers like at Diamond Lake. The kids' future is extremely bright.
Yeah, and that's again, to repeat what you both are saying, that's one of the beauties of the program. It's designed to have that anonymity and still get the job done, which you guys have been such a force in that space. I'm a big advocate of being part of a local organization. So many people right now are frustrated with what's happening on a federal level politically. We can't get around that. And to say, we can't talk about politics, we can't talk about social issues, or can't talk about economic issues, I think is a little bit, it's irresponsible of us because we have to. And when we have an organization like Blessings and we have a school like Diamond and so many others that are leaning in to do this kind of work, it does say that when we lean toward each other, that we lean into each other, that we can get so much done. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Sonny, any last comments as we wrap up this morning and in terms of all that you guys are doing?
You know what? Just thank you so much for, continuing to push that kids are our future and that they are, it's just a moment in time, and everybody needs help sometimes. So being a community, being there for one another, and leaning into each other is key. So I couldn't appreciate that message more.
Absolutely. Dan, any last messages, and how can people find you, of course?
So they can go to www.chicago.blessingsthebackpack.org. If you're looking for an event, it's /upcoming events. And we hope you come out and join us. You can meet Richard at the golf event. It's really a wonderful opportunity to share the camaraderie of a great shared mission, right? We're all there to raise money to feed kids. That's a great crowd to be in.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to you both. Dan Summins, Managing Director of Blessings in a Backpack here in Chicago, and Principal of Diamond Lake School, Sonny Morley. Thank you both for being with us, and thanks for the hard work that you guys put in to make sure that our kids are fed and have those blessings for the backpack, blessings in a backpack for the weekend. Thanks to you both.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye now.
You too.
Bye.
So there you go, guys. I love having Blessings on. I love having Dan on and just highlighting the work that they do. And it's always nice to have one of their volunteers or one of the representatives of the school, of a school that they are working with, be part of the call as well. Get involved. I've been saying this for months, long time, Matt. Get involved. If you don't know what to do during this crazy time, if you're trying to find a way to be more part of the solution, one of the easiest things I believe you can do is get involved with the local organization. We have the camaraderie that can come from that is so important. At the same time, it also provides you with the ability to not feel like you're in a silo. The other thing that I think it allows is, and this is probably part of the same bullet point, is that there are other people out there that think like you do. Not that we need to all think the same, but at least you don't feel so out there on your own because you have a certain belief and thought and want to see our country progress, to see our communities progress. And as I've tried to say so many times, being a part of a community that's moving moving the ball forward is a football analogy. That's a good thing. We have enough things that are pulling us backward. These are some of the things that we can do to go forward, and that's what Blessings not only tries to do, but they get it done. So kudos to them. Get involved, y'all. You can find them. You can go to their website and find a way to get involved, as we do with any of the organizations. We want to amplify the work that they do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk with another great leader when it comes to education, strong leader, and one that we, have a restart from last week when we had a little bit of technological issue, and that's going to be Stacy Davis Gates, Chicago Teachers Union president. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM, and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Listen up, fellow timeshare owners. If you're a timeshare owner and you want out at all costs, you're done, frustrated, tired of wasting money, you don't use the darn thing. Get out now. Hire the best Bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you fight the biggest and baddest companies out there that sell timeshare. At some point, you were using your timeshare, but now you're not, and you're tired of wasting money. Before you go to the poorhouse, call right now and learn how you can stop the maintenance fees and put more money back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think, and you'll save a lot of money over time. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline now. It's a free consultation.
800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. That's 800-296-0150.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
There we go, guys. We're back. I have my foot on the court again. Sorry about that. Good to have Dan Summins from Blessings in a Backpack, managing director here in Chicago, and principal from Diamond Lake School, not high school, Sonny Morley. Reach out to those folks and see what you can do to get involved and be helpful. So before when we got started today, one of the things that I said I wanted to do is to play a clip from someone whose voice we haven't heard in a while, but he's unapologetic when he does speak. But do we have, is she on? Good? No? All right. So, but before we do that, we got to get with our caller, which we've been promising you for the last bit of the show. Last week we had a chance to chat briefly, but we had some technological issues as we were speaking with Chicago Teachers Union President Stacy Davis Gates. And with all that's happening in the area and what's happening with our budget and in terms of Chicago schools, she obviously has her thumb on the pulse of not only what's happening, but also what we've got to do, or what she believes we have to do to rectify that situation. And we kind of had some issues last week where we weren't really able to get the full breadth of her message and where she is and what she's hoping we can get done. But good morning. Hopefully we got you online this morning. Stacy, welcome back to the show.
Good morning. You have me on the line, and how are you?
I'm good. Last week, like all of us, I had this, scratchy throat and coughing and all this other madness, and I thought, what the heck is going on? So I kind of worked my way through it. So I'm feeling a lot better now, and back without the scratchiness of the voice. So that helps me do this thing, which is talking on the radio. So What you know how that goes. You're doing well. I know you've been busy as you know what, and there's so much that's been happening. I'm going to start off by asking you not a controversial question about it, but it's just a question of an observation that I've made. Why is it, in your view, Stacy, that some of the voices in local print media, let me put it that way, and I'm not tap dancing around, but I'm also trying not to direct my heat at any specific organization. But why do you think that some of our local folks in the media spend the majority of their time finding the negative things about Governor Pritzker, about Mayor Johnson, about County President Preckwinkle, and about yourself, and writing about that rather than writing about the things that you guys, as much as we fight in the sandbox, are still ultimately trying to do to improve the lives of all of our citizens, but particularly those as it relates to our educational system? Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. You just come with it early in the morning.
Well, but I listen. Let me say this. I know I can ask you that question because I know I'm going to get the truth. So that's the reason. It's not a gotcha question. It's that I know I'm going to get the truth, and or at least the truth as you see it. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'll say that it is a fair question, and I think we do need to talk more about it. And I'll try to answer it in a dimensional way. One, I think that what we are seeing in media because of all of the staffing cuts, the billionaires buying newspapers, they're doing to our media what they've already done to public education in Chicago. They're firing workers. They're marginalizing the service to the consumer. They are giving you a product that's AI-driven in some cases, right? These are things that happen when the actual product means less than the revenues for the owners. So I think what you see there is what we've seen in most things. Try opening a bag of Lay's potato chips these days and seeing how many chips you actually get in the package. So I think that that's one bucket. And I think that there's another bucket, and this is a bucket that I think we have some agency over, quite frankly. We have to show our work together more in coalition. We opened 16 more sustainable community schools as a result of the contract that we landed in the spring. It is a testament to the union's work in coalition with families and community groups that actually brought sustainable community schools into reality. We don't do enough of that collaborative work as unionists, as political leaders in our space. There was a back and forth between our union and the governor last week about the $1.6 billion that the state of Illinois owes. Now, that's not his bill alone, obviously. Governor Pritzker is one of the governors that helped to accumulate that bill. The General Assembly, that's not theirs alone. There were previous General Assemblies that did that. If we have the capacity to show people our collaboration, our coalition work, it will be less things for them to write about that are negative. So I think it's twofold. I think obviously we see the hollowing out of media, the advent of AI, the concentration of wealth being extracted from media to owners and not into the product that they produce for consumers. And then we also have a very fragmented political leadership that doesn't know how to lock arms and work together. That's where the union comes in. Our work is about unity. Our work is about solidarity. We have 30,000 members who live all over this city, have all different types of perspectives on politics, on education, but somehow we figure out how to unify and walk together. So I think we have a lot to teach people about that.
Wow. Y'all weren't expecting that answer. I know everybody's sitting back going, oh, I didn't expect her to go down that route. But see, as you were responding and answering, and thank you for the answer, Stacy, the thing that went through my mind is this is someone that sat and thought about what is it that's happening, but also what is our role and how we can make it better. Because there's a lot of finger pointing, and none of us are immune to finger pointing. We are all susceptible to making that part of how we communicate, but it's not that doesn't get us solutions. Just the finger pointing alone. So I appreciate your answer because it's a well thought out answer, and it's also one where you've been able to look at the landscape and say, yeah, these are things that are happening to businesses that are then causing them to respond differently to all of us and to all of the buckets that we live in. Yours happens to be primarily in the education arena, but you understand the impact of business and decisions that businesses make on our educational economy. And now we know that if we don't coalesce, that it's only going to get worse. And you've been really, really one to stand in the void of that. And you've taken a lot of heat for it. So I know that Mylar suit that you're wearing is definitely getting its work in.
Well, I think that, look, I was an athlete for most of my life, in my developmental stages of my life. And I had coaches that I loved. I had coaches that didn't love me so much. I had teammates. And you have a practice of reflection and getting better. Your coach is going to challenge you, and they're going to support and praise you. Your teammates are going to expect you to show up and hold you accountable, but they're also going to praise you and high five you. You're a part of a team. I think that is what's missing, quite frankly, from politics in Illinois, this idea of a team. And I think that if we don't master that, from the unions to the political leadership, we are going to be at a disadvantage with this orange man in the White House. He is exposing fault lines within the Democratic Party. He's exposing fault lines within our democracy. He's exploiting racism and sexism and homophobia and, all of the things. He is exposing those things in ways in which create separation, create disunity and infighting. Just look at, the way in which Governor Abbott sent busloads of Venezuelans to Chicago, and they land on the south side and the west side of the city, places where black migrants landed 2 generations ago who are still waiting for the promise of the American dream. That's some diabolical, nasty work. And that was intentional. What better way to keep those of us who are all singing the same song of we need more, we need equity, we need justice, what better way to exploit that than to throw a few crumbs on the floor and watch people who need more than the crumbs fight over it? And so that expresses to me that we got to see beyond the crumbs to the thing that is doling out the crumbs. And that is a system of oppression. That is a system of white supremacy. That is a system of patriarchy. So, in all the training that I've had on teams is that you are hard on the system and not the person.
Thank you.
And so I just think that we're going to have to figure out how to point to a system that has been unfair, but also challenge the leaders who are in charge of that system to be better. That's what teachers do every day. That is what we're trained to do, is to get the best out of our young people while challenging the system to help us reconstruct libraries, to fund sports teams, to create opportunities for our young people to understand teaming and leadership.
One of the things that's just such a amazingly well constructed answer and thought about what we're doing, for lack of better words, not so well, and what we need to do better. And it is about building from the ground up. But as you're building from the ground up, be open to all the strength that comes from others that want to be part of the process. Not block people out, be welcoming, but welcoming with some requirements, which is if you're going to be on this team, you got to put the work in. And I appreciate what you said about your athletic background and what that taught you on a performance level, but also as a leader and a manager of resources and systems. I can attest to that as well. One of the best, some of the best lessons I learned was from being part of sports and part of organizations, band and debate and things of that nature, because it forces you to hold up your end of the bargain, but at the same time, it requires that you push the people that you're around to do better, not from an aggressive standpoint or from a negative standpoint, but from one that inspires and says, we've got a great thing here. Let's not waste it by all this unnecessary infighting. And so I appreciate your sort of cerebral but heartfelt way of approaching this conversation. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to Chicago Teachers Union President Stacy Davis Gates, who is a leading voice not just on educational matters here in the city of Chicago, but more broadly, the business intersection or the intersection of business, politics, and education that's so needed right now in the United States of America, and certainly here in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. We know the numbers, we know the data, we know the dollars, all the things that have been, moved around and mashed up and this, that, and the other, Stacy. But I'm gonna use maybe what might be viewed as a childlike approach to this, but I'm going to ask the question this way because I think you'll appreciate it. If you had your druthers and you could wave that proverbial magic wand when it comes to our educational system in America broadly, but specifically in this purview that you're a part of, what would that look like?
What would it look like? It would look like a triple blue state. Listen, Chicago is blue. Cook County is blue. The state of Illinois is blue. We have three leaders who say that they want this city, this county, and the state to work for the least of these, that there's enough for all of us. And then when there isn't enough for all of us, they kind of throw up their hands. I'll say this, working people hold the city of Chicago down. One of the things that the second Mayor Daley did that I think was, one of the most brilliant things he could have done is that he required people who are working for the city to actually be a neighbor in the city, which means that I want your investment in dimension. I want your investment as a neighbor, as a family, as a parent, and as a worker. And so we live here. I think what we have to do is acknowledge that working people provide the infrastructure of this city. That's why the city runs, is because of the workers. So that's one. Two, we have a city that is home to billionaires. We have a city that's home to some of the richest corporations in the world. Why is it that we continuously depend on the person that's picking up trash, or the person that's punching in at the schoolhouse right now, or the person that's taking your money when you go get the city sticker? Why are we only depending on their tax dollars to hold the city up when we have people who benefit just as much as these workers do in the city? They have more, and because of our taxation framework, they pay less than the workers do. I think we need tax fairness in this city. I think we need tax equity in this city. That's one thing. The second thing that I think we are going to have to do is put a premium and a benefit on the public services that are working. The mayor has reopened mental health care clinics in the city. Crime is going down. Young people get jobs in the summertime. We have a union that is negotiating contracts that get young people into homes if they are unhoused. These things speak to the reconstruction of Chicago. Why wouldn't we want to tax the rich to fund those things? Ultimately, having safety, having young people with jobs, having young people in schools that are fully funded, that helps Chicagoans. That's why Donald Trump spending $1 million a day on a National Guard in Washington, D.C. is infuriating. When we don't have crossing guards or safe passage workers for our young people. So you're going to send the National Guard to Chicago and we don't have a crossing guard? You're going to send the National Guard to Chicago and we don't have safe passage workers? Tell me your priorities are messed up without telling me your priorities are messed up. These are the types of contrasts that we need. Yesterday, our governor said he is going to protect Chicagoans and Illinoisans from the encroachments of, a would-be dictator. I hear that loud and clear. But how do we do that? Do we do that in raising taxes on billionaires who just got a tax break from Trump? Remember, the big, beautiful bill gave billionaires a tax break. That tax break comes at the expense of those who need Medicaid, Social Security. Those tax breaks come at the expense of special education students who will not be getting their minutes this school year because there's no entity to police or to enforce that. These are things that billionaires reap the benefit from in Illinois. Why can't we ask those billionaires who live in a triple blue space, state, county, and city, why can't we ask them to pay a little more in this moment because Trump is taking from it? How come we can't say that this is Chicago's, Cook County's, and Illinois' rally around the flag moment and figure out how to make sure that our seniors have health care, that our students have health care, that we are funding the services that he is defunding in this moment. We are a donor state. The state of Illinois is a donor state to the United States of America. We are subsidizing education in Mississippi. We're subsidizing education in Louisiana. We are subsidizing red states to cause us issues. So what does it look like? Does it look like for Illinois to figure out that math problem?
And many of those states, and you and I'll be, for lack of better words, a little catty for a moment in a good way. Many of those states are the same ones that try to drag Illinois, Cook County, Chicago for being awful and a terrible place to be. Yet they're the recipients of us being a donor state to their betterment. So there's a big part of, I hear you, and I wanted to let you have a moment to just get that out there so people understand. There are thinking people like Stacy Davis Gates that understand that the work is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you'll probably ride with me on this. It's not that hard. We're triple blue. So let's just make the changes. And if we're going to be in this fight, then let's just be in the fight. Let's not be on the sidelines and yelling and screaming and talk about it. And I love our leaders. I love what they're doing, and I know that they are out there fighting, but there has to be more. And right now, I mean, I'm going back to the tax piece for a moment. The flat tax is a topic that a lot of people are questioning as it relates to how we can be more self-funded in the state of Illinois if we make that change. Do you agree with that, or not flat out agree or disagree, but what are your thoughts about that?
I think that is a part of all of the issues that we're dealing with right now. Residents in Cook County, for every dollar that we send to Springfield, we get back around 90%. For every dollar that someone in Southern Illinois sends to Springfield, they get back almost $3.
That's
like
crazy.
There's unfairness in the macro, and there's unfairness in the micro. Look, I'm not a Pollyanna. I don't think anyone would accuse me of that. And I'm a teacher, and I'm going to say that we're going to have to challenge each other in this moment to be better, to not try and organize people around accepting less and paying more. We're going to have to do that, and our governor is going to have to rise to that occasion. Yesterday, he stood out in front of everyone and said, "I got you." Okay, well, get us. And I'm not saying that in a sarcastic, glib way. I'm saying that as a black mother who's watching the occupation of Washington, D.C. and the occupation of black communities. See, Donald Trump said it was because D.C. was a sanctuary city, and black people thought that maybe this time we would not be the target of over-policing. And it turns out, just like every single time, these forces, these occupying forces, they take up space in black neighborhoods. So, yes, I need our governor to protect my black son who is coming of age under this type of threat. Yes, I need the governor to make sure that there are more after-school programs so young people have space to be inside of a safe space. Yes, I need the governor to make sure that our communities have what they need in the absence of it because of Donald Trump and his billionaires. And we need that. Yeah. We need them to work together. We need them to see each other. This moment is about a united front. We get to challenge each other and we get to work with each other.
Right now, that those words could not be better stated and more relevant because, and Stacy, I've been saying this for a version of what you just said for months now. If we do not figure out how to come together to fight this together, then we know the other side of this coin. As we wrap up today, obviously the conversation around the National Guard, and I said this, I've been saying this for weeks as well, so thank you for reminding us of this. $1 million a day to police D.C. through the National Guard, which is incredibly wasteful, corrupt, racist, and bigoted. Let's just call it as it is. And those dollars could go so many other places if they were going to, if that money were going to be spend it on actually programs that are going to help to develop and strengthen things in D.C. Here in Chicago, it's a whole different story because the price tag, one, is going to be higher right out of the gate because of the size of the city of Chicago. And I talked about this yesterday. We don't need the National Guard in any neighborhood, in my observation, in the city of Chicago. We need resources in conjunction with the state to make those communities better, but we don't need policing to make those neighborhoods better. Do you agree or disagree or somewhere in between?
Oh, listen, he had the temerity, Orange Man, Pennsylvania Avenue, or Mar-a-Lago, whichever one. He had the temerity to say black women want him.
Begging him to come here. Oh!
Baby, ain't nobody begging him to come here. I got 30,000 members where 80% of them are women. You know what those people are begging for? To not have to subsidize their school communities every single year, to not have to take out of their household incomes to make ends meet, to not have to provide toiletries, clothing, and money and grocery and diapers and formula to families who need because that young person is sitting right in front of them. The women that I know, they want him to do his job, starting by funding the Department of Education, ending his attack on workers, funding Medicaid, securing Social Security. Those are the things that I hear from our members who are women, who are black women in this city. They didn't ask him to come and occupy their neighborhoods. They want a safe red line. They want a fully funded neighborhood school. They want an easier existence in this city, and he's just going to make it harder.
Yeah. Stacy Davis Gates, y'all. And baby, she's right, because I know that not to be facetious, but I appreciate you and your hard work and your unfiltered but honest, thoughtful approach about what we have to do. And that's so important and valued right now. So I'm personally and then professionally thanking you for that type of leadership. As always, it's great to have you on. It's school season. We're back in the school season, so I'll be reaching out to you again and having you back on, and maybe we can do this on a kind of a monthly basis for you to help keep us up to speed on what's happening and what really is going on, quote unquote, behind the curtain. How can folks find you, keep up with you, and lend you their support?
Hey, I'm on every platform, Stacy Davis Gates. You can find me, or just check out the editorial section in the Chicago Tribune because they just love your girl.
All right, so see now why you got to do that? You said the print outlet that I was talking about. You just man, but I love you for that
well, they
because
say my name.
I know I love you for it because that's exactly who I was talking about at the beginning of our segment when I asked that question. But Stacy, thank you so much for being the leader that you are, and I'm just so proud of what you're doing. And when I say I got you, I mean it. I got you, and I try to deliver. So thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, you have us, Richard. So make that bigger because your work is critical in this time of disinformation, and continuing to raise your voice and to do it with integrity and fairness is a feat, and it's heroic in this moment. And continue your work, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, be safe this week, and we'll reach out to you again to have you back on, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, listen, thanks to our guest in this reverse order, Stacy Davis Gates, Chicago Teachers Union president. Thanks to Dan Summins from Blessings in a Backpack, and Sonny Morley for being with us. And also earlier we had Ibrahim talking about policy. Great guests and wonderful people who took the time to stop in and hang out with us for a little bit. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to my man Matt for keeping us on the rails. And we appreciate all of you who listen anywhere in the country for supporting the work that we do. As always, you guys take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, my dad founded Chicago Community Acupuncture.
My dad did too.
That's because we're sisters.
Yeah, but it's true.
You know, acupuncture has helped billions of people, but some people are still afraid of it.
Why?
They're afraid it'll hurt, or that it won't do anything to help them.
That's silly. We get acupuncture all the time, and it's like less than a mosquito bite. And everyone knows that acupuncture can help a bunch of different problems.
Not everyone knows that.
Someone should tell them.
I think you just did.
So if you'd like to experience top